Yeah, don't expect me to do this without making a mistake or two. Not yet.
Good evening and welcome to the Revolutionary Racing's GT3 Touring Car Cup. This broadcast is brought to you by Elliot Henderson Graphics and Fanaleds and is powered by ESOM Gaming. Today we are at the preseason test round at Spa, 1 week before the drivers will hit the track for the official race, also at Spa. To open the season, we've got today the rough track car, the BMW Z4, and the McLaren MP4. Should be a pretty interesting race today, and we're going to watch the drivers here as they go through 20 minutes of qualifying. This is how each race will be set up, with 20 minutes of qualifying and then a 90-minute race, so at least one pit stop will be mandated for the race. We've seen so far the rough has gone about 60 minutes on a tank, while McLaren and the BMW can last a little bit longer at 70 minutes. So it'll be interesting to see if the other two cars have their fuel tanks limited, or also if the BMW will suffer from a weight restriction due to its speed advantage that has seemed to plague a lot of the other cars from the early season testing this year. just a few minutes in here, and so far George Lee Wright is at the top of the leaderboard with a 1 minute 138 second lap time, followed by Klaus Peterson in the 96 with a 140 second lap time. Next is Timothy Silman with a 141 second lap time, then Nico Brandt with a 141, Bastian Huisman with a 145, and then the rest of the drivers after that have just sat out laps so far. We are seeing quite a few BMWs out in this grid, but there are a couple roughs. We've got Nico Brandt and Paul Stolber from the IndyCar Racing Enthusiast team that are driving roughs, and then I believe Connor Cross is here with his McLaren. So there is field variety today. They're just halfway through qualifying here, and George Lee Wright remains on top over Klaus Peterson, Timothy Silman, Nico Brandt, Paul Stolber, Bastian Huisman, Barbaru Razvan Gabriel, Steve Greenwood, Matt A. Kingsbury, Adam Bath, Marcel Mose, Jonathan Provost, Matthew Oates, and Tuan Tron. Let's watch on board here with Paul Stolber as he heads into first corner of his lap. As he hits Eau Rouge at speed in his rough track car. See that gyro camera tilts a little bit as they go up the hill and over the crest. Now down the long super straight as they're going to hit the quick chicane here. Over the curves, and then he should stay a little bit to the right here on the entry to the next corner, using all the curb on the exit into a downhill sweeper corner. Pinching the entry all the way to the inside there. You don't want to come up off of that because you're going to lengthen your way around the track, and you want to be around this track in as short a distance as possible while holding your speed. Very fast sweeper coming up here. Nearly full throttle, just a dab of brakes, a shift, downshift, and then back right onto the throttle. Sort of a double apex, one at the beginning and then one right at the exit. Now down another large straightaway. They'll reach some pretty decent speeds here as he shoots into what will be a double hairpin corner. And from there on will be a straight shoot to the line before hitting a hairpin for the first turn.
Well, now can you hear me? Good. Does that mean he can swear? My apologies. My apologies, everybody. This is my first time doing this type of iRacing commentary, so don't expect me to be fully aware of how things work yet. It's gonna take a while. Nope.
Marcel Moe's following. Then Nico Brandt, Klaus Peterson, Barbary Razvan Gabriel, Timothy Silliman, Adam Bath, Paul Stolber, Bastian Huisman, Tuantron, and Steve Greenwood. Still just some drivers who have not set laps yet. It will be determined if they are going to start on the grid or not, if they are still here.
What? Good job. Good job. It's one apiece right now. It's 1-all. Disagree right now?
So as the drivers load onto the grid, we can see that there is quite a lot of differentiation between car choices. We do have 2 McLarens out there and 3 or 4 roughs. On top of that, there's about 6 or so BMWs, which is not a surprise at all. So a diverse grid, and they're going to be rolling off here in about 15 seconds. And then going through the last couple of corners, and we're going to be going to green. So let's get a roll through the grid here. First place is George Lee Wright. And then in second is Barbaru Razvan Gabriel. No, that is not right. This Thank you to our iRacing ticker for giving us incorrect data again.
So we got in first place apparently number 30 George Lee Wright with a qualifying time of 2 minutes 18 seconds and 4/10. And second place is number 857 car driven by Marcel Mose with a time of 2 minutes 19 seconds .4. In third place is the 666 car driven by Nico Brent with a qualifying time, of 2 minutes 20 seconds and 3/10. Well, he's followed closely by the 96 car, of Klaus Peterson, driven by Klaus Peterson with a qualifying time of 2 minutes 20 seconds and 5/10. Excuse me for a while.
We are now green flag here at Spa-Francorchamps.
Spa-Francorchamps. That's what I meant.
George Lee right off to a good start defending from Marcel Mose, who makes the move to the outside, is unable to complete the pass. Nico Brandt in his rough. Looking a little bit slow in the straightaway there, but could be due to the extra weight that he carries over the BMW, which has same horsepower figures. Pretty decent battle here for the lead as Marcel Mose in the 857 looks to possibly get by the number 20 of George Lee Wright. Thus far in the race, we have not had any incidents, no cars off, and no cars have hit each other yet, so that is a positive.
It's not bad for a first lap, actually, especially in this track, you know.
So as we've completed our first lap here, George Lee Wright is off to quite a good start. And I think we're going to take a look back at the battle for the race lead in the turn 1, if there was one. But definitely look at the start from George Lee Wright. So we take a quick look back at the replay here. This is going into turn 1. As you can see, George Lee Wright held the lead meticulously, but Marcel Mose did not leave much room. So not a really clean getaway from George Lee Wright, especially with the advantage they have coming out of that hairpin corner.
Just going to get in on the race. Hello. I'm just going to... Oh shit.
Yeah, that's a great start.
So we'll make the jump back to live TV here. So we look at the gap between George Lee Wright and Marcel Mose here, and it is only a half second, and we are 3 laps into this race. That's not a big gap, and I think with the slipstream that we do have with this GT3 car, Marcel can definitely close the gap on the back stretch or the mega straight here, both before Eau Rouge and after Eau Rouge, really, because it's still full throttle. So he's got it down to 0.3 of a second before Eau Rouge, and he's closing it to 1/4 of a second already halfway down the backstretch, and underneath 0.2 of a second halfway down the backstretch. So good passing opportunities here if he could just stay with George Lee Wright.
Oh, they're already side by side. They're already side by side. Yeah, George Lee Wright had the inside line into the exit of that turn. He managed to hold the lead. He get the inside line into the turns to the subsequent right hand corner after the exit of the straight. Now they've just left right idiom. Moving to this left corner. Now they're heading to a curious section. This is an important section of the track, which Lee Wright has to get right if he wants to keep that small little advantage he has over Mouse.
Alright. Yeah, I'm just getting in reaction now. So which bit are we currently looking at? I'm on live. Alright, sorry, I've just joined a bit late, so trying to get it all set up.
So George has managed to open up that gap over the course of that lap, but he just made a mistake. He made a mistake. He just ran wide in the last 2 corners, and Marcel was now on his tail. So he had opened up that gap to almost a whole second, and then with that mistake there, he's given back almost all of that gap. As you see, underneath the 10th, as Marcel literally is bump drafting him down the starting straight here, and then into the first hairpin, looking to cross him over, maybe? I don't know. He's definitely closer than he was last time, so definitely the opportunity to make an overtake. As you can see, he's looking to the left side of George Lee Wright into Eau Rouge. This could end badly. Or he's just forcing George to take a bad line.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, he definitely took a bad line.
Oh!
Yeah,
And he has spun it, and it looks like George
is off, and he's
gonna have to be
sustained massive
careful
damage
with
on that car.
Sorry about that, cutting you guys off there, but I just saw that as well. It was like a flip back on the simulator.
And we're going to take a little bit of an instant replay at that one.
George's car is really, really smashed up at the front end.
So, at the pace that these two cars were having, I think Marcel Mauss could very well be unchallenged during this race. Yes, it's 1.5 hours. It's 1 hour and 30 minutes long. It's a 90-minute race, but the pace that Marcel Mauss and George Lee Wright have been showing are head and shoulders above everybody else's. As you can see at the standings for the latest lap were George Lee Wright with 1/10 of a second over Marcel Mauss, and Klaus Peterson, who's in third place, was 6.5 seconds behind this duo.
Yeah, I think Marcel's got this one now that George just torn the front off of that car. That being said, I think George will be able to hang in there for a decent finish. He's just gonna have to take an early pit stop, probably bang a little bit of that damage out if there's any at all. And
is there any fast toes?
There are not fast toes, so he's gonna have to pit around the 30-minute mark or 20-minute mark and run a 70-minute instant, and then hopefully he can just pull the fenders out of that thing and gain a little bit of speed on the straightaway, and that'll help him in the long run. So, or you can hope for a full course yellow. Maybe that could also benefit him. But the interesting thing is that this BMW does take damage very well, a lot better than the other cars. So if we just take a look at his car here, you know, he's still out there. He hasn't pitted. It looks like he's not going to pit. And he is keeping up with Barbara Raz Van Gabriel and Klaus Peterson ahead of him.
So you say that damage doesn't seem to be affecting that car too much, and the fact that he's crossed the line with an 8-second deficit to Marcel Mauss leads me to believe that he's going on a recovery race, whether he has to pit or not. I think he's still gonna give the best he has in that car, and hopefully still manage to put up a challenge to Marcel Mauss.
Losing a little bit in the straightaways, even though the car's ahead of him, but he's quick enough that I think he can make up the grounds to the cars in front of him and at least take those positions. But that being said, though, I think George made a pretty big mistake in the Eau Rouge. Marcel set him up very nicely to make that mistake. You saw Marcel duck to the left there and pretty much commit to the line, but back out at the last second, forcing George to take a wider entry than he'd want to. And you saw him bounce off that inner curb for the middle section and just upset the balance of his car, it looks like. And then when he hit the exit curb, everything looked okay until all the weight transferred to that right rear tire, and he spun out and head on that wall. Luckily for him, a glancing blow. It looks like it was just some sheet metal damage, but something he definitely doesn't want to repeat, as he has just worked his way back up in the third by Barbara Raz Van Gabriel.
I'm seeing a bit of a replay of that incident. I think George Lee Wright took too much curb. He took too much curb on the inside of Eau Rouge, on the apex on the turn. So still not fully on the exit. He took too much curb, and he had his wheels on the dirt. And when he reached the exit of the turn, he had to take obviously too much curb as well. Yes, and that probably upset the car's suspension to a point that he still kept full throttle, and he ended up causing a spin. He couldn't correct his spin in time, and then boom, he hit the wall. So it's a driver error for definitely a driver error for George Lee Wright. He took Eau Rouge. He took too much of Eau Rouge than what he really needed. Now he's paying right now for his mistake with a damaged car and 8-second deficit to the leader.
And you know, I just did a race here about a week ago over at the Radical Racing UK League, and it was with these exact same cars. So I know exactly what George did. Is he definitely caught that middle curb wrong, and then he clipped the lip on the second one, and that sent him wide on the exit of the exit curb. And that exit curb looks fine. You know, there's a nice asphalt runoff area. Worst case scenario is you get a little off track.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Ray, but George Lee Wright is making a move on Klaus Peterson on the radio, and he makes his stick. He's back up to second place.
That was a pretty clinical move by George right there, diving to the inside, and Klaus really didn't have much of an opportunity. Didn't really put up much of a fight, to be honest with you. Take a look at that. Hopefully we can grab that in this frame. And we just missed it, but you did see the end result of it right there. Just barely overtaking him and clearing him before the quick left-hander after that downhill right-hand sweeper.
He's gonna have to be for the next 75 minutes. So he needs to get all the time he can out of that mistake.
And they're already hitting lap. It looks like lap traffic with I believe that's Darren Gonzalez right there. He's quite a bit off pace. I'm not sure what he's doing. Maybe he missed the start of the race a little bit, but doesn't seem too far off pace.
So Marcel Maus crosses the line 9.1 seconds ahead of George Lee Wright, who is now up to second place. He's got apparently a clear path ahead, and he's still showing a faster pace than Marcel Maus. I think because he just posted a lap time of 2 minutes 20 seconds .3. That compared to Marcel Maus 2:20.1 is apparently leaving him to a bit of a deficit, because Maus obviously has managed to keep a constant pace since inheriting that lead. What?
Battle on track between Tuan Tron and Carl Modig for 5th and 6th here. Only about a third of a second between them.
I'm going to be interested to see if Carl does decide to make a move fairly soon, because he seems to have gradually caught up, if I'm correct in saying. I'm not sure though, but either way, he's doing fairly well on that McLaren, considering it is quite a bit slower, a fair bit slower on certain tracks. I'm not sure if Spa's one of them than the BMW. Ray, do you know if it's slower around this track?
From the race I did, it seemed like there's a lot more BMWs out on the track, so I don't know if it's fair to say that McLaren and the rough are slower, but they did seem to be a little bit less pacey.
Yeah. Either way, Cole's doing a fairly brilliant job to stay where he currently is, which is actually in P6. He started in 12th, so without qualifying, so he's doing fairly well. And Turan, I believe the guy ahead of him is, started in 10th place. So they started fairly well, fairly far back out of the 15 starters of the race, so made their way through nicely. And probably going to keep trying to advance on the cars ahead. Because remember, the McLaren's fuel tank is smaller, so Cole may not have to pit, whereas the cars ahead may have to pit, which is a thing we've got to watch out for.
Cam, but it seems that they're only going to be making one pit stop in this race. It'll be interesting to see when we get bigger grids if more people will elect for the short stop. I'm guessing the guys at the front will probably not do that because they don't want to fall back into the lap traffic. But the guys in the middle of the field might elect for the earlier stop and just top the fuel off rather than having to calculate it all for the end of the run. And then also if they can rely on full course yellows, which would close them back up to the leaders regardless, even if they've already pitted. So as long as they don't go a lap down on a long track like Spa, that could be a good strategy as well. Or will they do the more likely strategy of running as long on a full tank as they can before pitting at the end? Now,
running longer on a full tank would probably work better, because then you've got to put less fuel in and the pit stop is overall shorter. So it probably seems more sensible to run higher fuel at the start and then let it burn down and put less in when you actually have to come and pit. But saying that, Cole's got a brilliant run, and that is Turan. I think it's Turan. Turan, sorry. Going off at Eau Rouge, and looks like they're going to be battling all the way down to Lake Homme.
Yeah, definitely, Cam. As you can see, they're side by side going into the chicane there, but the car on the outside is going to win that battle. So Truan will succeed the position there to the McLaren.
Yeah,
About the pit stops we were talking about, the other thing is you don't want to lose the draft on a big track like this, so maybe some of the guys at the back will do it, you know, to get in clean air if they're faster than the guys in front of them. Well,
yeah.
odds are the guys at the front will just stay in the draft, and that'll be good enough for them.
As long as they keep up with the cars they're battling with, then it'll be successful for those guys. Having a look through the field to see if there is any more battles currently going on, but it looks like George is actually gradually catching up to Marcel now with that pretty battered BMW, I could say, with that whole front bonnet missing from it. Marcel's got it pretty easy currently. I'm just going to compare the last lap times. George has been doing, well, last lap was actually slightly slower, but overall he's been lapping fairly consistently in the 20s, whereas Marcel has actually been ducking down to the 19s, so it's not exactly catching up all that much throughout these last few laps. But Cole and Tuan Tran is still battling, right? It's still going on.
Yeah, and you know that group just recently caught up to that lap down car of Darren Gonzalez, and seems like he's hanging with them. So hopefully he won't slow down the battle too much. I really doubt it. It seemed like the other drivers had no problem lapping him as he's sitting there logging his laps in that Golf-colored BMW. But definitely, Cam, that's the place to watch because you see there's a string of 4 or 5 cars there within a second of each other.
And that is actually Paul Stobler making a move. That was almost a catastrophe there. Was that a there was a lap car actually making a move on, but Bastian is caught right up to him now, almost went into the back of that BMW there of Darren Gonzalez. But they both got through there pretty safely in the end. And this is making me wonder, where is Carl Modig? Does not look like he is on the track currently. It may have had some connection issues, but he's gone. And no, he's left. What happened to him? Have a look. Like he just stopped at Eau Rouge.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what happened to Carl Modig. I don't see anything on our notification center here. We haven't even had an off track in over 10 minutes, so can't really determine what happened unless there's something mechanical inside the car.
I'm not sure personally what happened to him, but either way he's out of the race now. Connected. Oh, look what other battles are going on currently.
Still a battle between Paul Stober and Bastian Huisman. I'm quite close as well between those two roughs.
Oh, apparently Carl Mudish he's apparently parked it up at Eau Rouge and left the race, so that's the reason for his retirement.
It does appear that way. Something else has happened to Timothy Silliman as well. It seems he's no longer in his race car.
I'm just looking down at the battle for 6th currently. It is Paul and Bastian battling quite hard. Bastian's going around the outside. We're looking for a move around the outside of Lake Com. Is he going to make it stick? No, he's not. He may go for the undercut though, as we're currently watching. Well, I'm currently watching Paul. So I'm not sure if we're currently seeing this, but Bastian and Paul are currently having a little battle between the two roughs in this race, but Porsche's roofs. But that's alright then. We'll see in this battle, which is a battle that's been going on for a little while. Okay. Look at Timothy Silliman. Up down. Yeah, but the closest battle we got on track is actually the battle for 6th.
So we'll watch on board with Weisman as he tries to catch Stobler. See that rough really clipping the apexes of the curbs. Now, we'll watch from the wheel cameras here and show you how close to get to the curb that threw George Lee right out. And this is right here, that little white strip.
They get right over it.
Yeah, that's what throws the balance of the car off, and then when they get loose, they hit the exit curb.
I'm just surprised that the BMW went round so easy. I would have thought it'd been the rough going round much easier than the BMW, because the BMW is a much more stable car than the Roof on iRacing, which it probably is again in real life, but it's surprising George made such a rookie error doing that, and now he's actually losing time now to Marcel, who's leading by 10.5 seconds.
Yeah, I really was a surprise that George binned it there, but that being said, I think the BMW is one of the worst cars on the snap oversteer. It kind of has that oversteer floaty feel to it when you're driving it, and
yeah,
it feels great until it's too late. So I have noticed that it's a little skatey over the curbs, but in general, it's a very planted car. I think it's probably the best car for me on iRacing. It has the best balance. It's slightly oversteery and, not 100% stable, but kind of gets you on edge.
Yeah, as long as you don't lose your rear end at all, it's generally really fairly easy car to drive. Like you say, as soon as the rear end does step out, it can be incredibly hard to save depending on what sort of setup you're running. As I saw a bit of smoke being kicked up there, but there's nothing big.
Yeah, Cam, definitely. And on top of that, everybody knows now that the GT3 cars have added traction control, so that's another interesting feature. Plus the throttle mapping and all those different things to help driver personality.
Yeah, I mean, the difference of I suppose we can go on to traction control, unless Rory's here. Is Rory here currently? By the way, I'll just speak a bit about traction controllers, because it goes up to 1 to 6, 6 obviously meaning the most traction, 1 meaning the least. 1 is generally the quickest, but a more unstable car, especially for the Porsche at the rear of it. But if you want to be quicker, then generally 1's the way forward, but 3 is the optimal balance of the car if you want to be pretty safe in it and not be losing it every other lap. So 3 is generally what quite a few drivers run. That's what I've seen setups being shared. 3 has been the optimal traction control to run. So
yeah, that seems like that's where I am too. At Mosport I started off I think on a 2 until the tires got a little understeery, and then I threw it up to a 3, and that kept the rear end in check if I ever made a mistake, because you're pushing on quite a bit with the worn tires. I know at Watkins Glen I ran 4 because of that. The one left-hand corner we had was very loose, so maybe it wasn't the best strategy for the other corners. But you were either 100% on the throttle or not really on it at all, so I don't think it hurt me too much.
Yeah, obviously it's good that you can play around the settings to see what's quickest for you. I haven't looked if there's any. More battles commencing. It still just looks like Paul and Bastion is the current battle going on. But hopefully when the actual season commences we'll have a bigger grid, and obviously there'll be more action to commentate on for the commentators for the races, which I guess will be Ray and possibly Rui. Who else? Who would the commentators be, Ray? Do we know yet?
I will not be here for the first round, or the second round rather, so I do not think I will be able to commentate on that. Hopefully we'll still be able to do a stream. I know Matt will try to run it off my computer if possible. But I'm not sure who will be commentating with me. Maybe Jake will be. If not, we'll find somebody to do the commentary.
Yeah, preferentially someone who can speak and direct an entire stream, because I sure can't.
Getting through the other cars on the grid on the field currently. Klaus and Barberiu, they're only 6 seconds apart. It'll be interesting to see if he can make inroads on him. And George obviously still running with that pretty stricken car. He's actually slightly catching up now. Caught up by about a second in the last few laps to Marcel. So George's pace, considering his car is battered, is pretty decent. Bastion is actually just making a move on Pool. Just gone back to that little battle, but he didn't actually make it stick at all.
Bold on your screen, you can see that Bastion is looking by Paul. That slipstream definitely helping.
It's good to see these two roofs making having a battle though. Probably best to let the fuel go out, in my opinion, then the tyres just wear down, fit new tyres and get fuel at the pit stops, just then you keep going quicker on this stint. As in experience I've had before, when the cars are pitted sooner, because obviously the refueling and new tyres and stuff, they'd be heavier cars and then therefore they'd be slower, so it's best to actually stay out. So I'd be really surprised if people do pit in this pit window, although it is open as you say. Well, yeah, Marcel's actually in the pit for saying that. So Marcel is currently down the very long pit road. But I've also noticed something. They have put those, the barriers on the exit between the GP pits and the endurance pits, which they didn't actually usually have. So that's a new thing I've just seen. Apologies for just seeing that. But anyway, Marcel he's not actually out on track anymore.
So I'm not sure what happened to Marcel.
George will be taking the lead this race.
I think Marcel just ran his car for 30 minutes and was happy with the results, and maybe he's ready for next week and he's going to pack it in for today before he blows up the car.
Quite possibly.
That will give the lead to George if that's the case.
Marcel is pitting. Marcel is pitting.
Meanwhile, our battle between Paul Stober and Bastian Huisman is heating up. It's within 0.3 of a second here, even after the large straightaway. So one of these two is going to win, and it's been looking like it's going to be Paul, but Bastian is putting up a good fight. If he could just be patient and wait for the large straightaways, I think he will have the advantage. to check out ElliotHendersonGraphics.com for your sim racing graphical needs, and also Fanaleds, a great application that works for the G27 and all wheels that offer LED screens, and it helps you with sort of customizing your LED notifications for your wheel, for iRacing or any sim for that matter. And they also work with the Leo Bodner boards. And as we go into the last two corners here, great battle going on.
Say that Bastian Huisman has ran wide onto the entry of the bus stop chicane, and he lost ground to Paul Stolber. I'm sorry about that. He lost some ground to Paul Stolber because Bastian Huisman got wide on the entry to the bus stop.
Yeah, he lost about a second there, Rui.
Yes, he did. He posts, as a result of that, his latest lap time is 2:23.8. That compared to Paul Stober's 2:23 dead is pretty much indicative that little mistake at the bus stop chicane just cost him about 8/10 of a second. So that's going to make his task a bit more difficult, you know, when it comes to catching and eventually passing Paul Stolber, because he managed to keep up with Stolber throughout the entire race until this point.
Definitely, Rui. And I think an interesting thing on this graphic here is on the bottom right, if you look underneath Bastian Huisman's name, it says plus 43.5. That's not the distance he is to the driver in front. That is the distance he is if he continues at this rate. So he is in theory faster. As you see, that number continues to go down. So technically, he's going to catch him in 43.8 seconds if he continues if they both continue at the same rate.
We have another retirement. Steve Greenwood has crashed out at the exit of Stavolo, I think. So another retirement into this race after nearly 35 minutes of racing. So
yeah, we're gonna get you a quick replay of that accident by Steve Greenwood. We just missed it. But as you can see, he's heading down the straightaway here, the long straightaway before the chicane, and then the quick right-hander. Looks like something happened in the downhill sweeper. Looks like he just caught the curb in the grass. And it just sent him sliding. Maybe marbles, I don't know. It doesn't look like he had too big of an off. Backed it up into the sand pit and then got rolling again. And then he had lost it in the next corner. I'm wondering if there's something wrong with that car, Rui. Maybe he overheated the rear tires or puncture or something.
I like to think that was just a mistake that cost him a lot.
Meanwhile, we return back to our battle between Stolber and Huisman, which is close back down to 0.7 of a second. But also a good battle between Barbara Rez Van Gabriel and Klaus Peterson for the second position. Closed out underneath the second now, and Klaus might be able to make use of the draft if he can clean up his last two corners here, and then the first corner, and then get through Eau Rouge without losing any speed. He very well could launch an attack on that very long straightaway with the slipstream.
It's still a bit of a long shot, though. Klaus Peterson, he shows that he has the pace to get closer to Barbier as he goes wide on the entry of the bus stop as well. So whatever I was going to say, is now unfounded, because I was going to say that he was going to catch up to Barbiro Razvan Gabriel, and after, at least to the point when they start entering the twisty section after the Radion straight. So, but the current time difference is will not allow that to happen. The only the only way for that to happen would be for Gabriel to make a mistake, which does not seem likely at this point.
George Lee Wright ran off just a little bit. I'm wondering if that might have further implications, as it looks like it was in Eau Rouge. Lost him a little bit of time, the Barbara Razvan Gabriel, but it doesn't look like it's going to hurt him too much. Yeah, it looks like he just ran wide. It doesn't look like anything significant.
Yeah, besides that, Leroy has been posting some pretty consistent lap times. We're talking, he's been doing at least 6 last laps, with the exception of his most recent lap, lap 16. He's been always on the 19.8, 19.7 second mark. So he's been pretty consistent so far lately.
I was going to say the closest battle on track is still that between Paul Stolber and Bastian Huisman, but it looks like something has happened to Bastian here.
Oh, he's just ran wide at the Stavilo corner. Yeah, he's not getting any grip from his tires. I think something is wrong. His tires might be just completely shot.
Yeah, probably overheated. We saw other cars slipping and sliding. So maybe we were wrong about that long run strategy. It might be, you know, an intermediate race. Yeah, he lost it on Eau Rouge. And he hit the wall pretty hard. I hope that doesn't have too many repercussions. It looks like just a pushed fender, however.
Yeah, I think he might have to pit for that, because he's having clearly lots of trouble just turning in. He's suffering from severe understeer.
Yeah, he might have knocked the camber or the toe or caster or something out, but he's still holding 6th. Yeah, you can see that left front is definitely a little damaged.
Yeah. He has to pit for that. He can't keep racing with that suspension in that state.
Yeah, especially inside the pit window, I would just go in and get that pulled out real quick. A couple seconds just to keep the tires on the car so they don't wear out too much.
Well, that's how bad the issue is. He can't even. Yeah, he can't.
We look at the fastest laps from the last lap from the drivers here. The last lap completed, that is. George Lee Wright is by far the fastest with a 2:19.5, and then second and a half slower is Klaus Peterson, and then from there it just goes down a couple tenths for each driver. But George Lee Wright really in a field of his own right now. Very good drive from him, despite that early wreck. And as you see, George Lee Wright is going to lap Tuan Tran right here. Tuan Tran is actually running in the 6th position. Klaus Peterson has actually overtaken Barbara Razvan Gabriel, who made a mistake just recently. And Gabriel is actually now back up into that position, so I just see a battle between these two for the 2nd position.
And at this point, I think Paul Stolber has just lapped Bastian Huisman, so I guess that's how one of the exciting battles of the race ends, with Bastian Huisman's damage forcing him to go a lap down to his closest rival, Paul Stolber. And I guess that leaves us only with the battle for 2nd position, which Ray just mentioned, between Barbara Razvan Gabriel and Klaus Peterson.
Barbara Razvan Gabriel is actually in the pit lane now, as you see him dive off before that last corner. So he's going to be taking his pit stop exactly halfway through this race, and it's going to allow Klaus Peterson to walk away with it. Well, with that position for now. George Lee Wright still out front with a massive lead. Quick look at the pit lane here as Razvan Gabriel actually scrapes the pit lane wall. That is a very long pit lane. You would definitely not want to have to make more than one stop here unless you had to. Just for comparison, George Lee Wright was running 219s, and we're watching now with Darren Gonzalez. He's only into the last chicane with the 219. As you can see, it takes him about 2 minutes and 26 seconds to even get across the line. So quite a bit off pace for Darren Gonzalez here. Maybe he's trying some sort of fuel save strategy, I don't know, or he's just off pace. And there's been some sort of issue with Bastian Huisman. For some odd reason, okay, that was... The program skipped back by itself, excuse me. But as you can see, Bastian Huisman's in the pit. Matt Kingsbury behind him, the admin there. George Lee Rett continues to pretty much dominate this race, with Barbary Razvan Gabriel 33 seconds behind him. Klaus Peterson seems to have also joined us down pit lane, as have many of the other cars. Only 7 cars left running here. A few cars have parked it and taken their gear onto the hauler to get ready for next week. Hopefully we will be able to fill the grid with 60 cars next week. That would be a wonderful thing to see, for sure.
As we rejoined, we have 53 minutes of racing done. And we go as George Lee Wright is in the pits. He enters the pits for his pit stop. Whether it's, we hope it's scheduled. We think it's scheduled because he's managed to keep the same pace throughout the last few laps. Over 2:19.5 is his best lap. Which was reached in lap 17. He's currently on lap 24. I'm sorry, and he's managed to keep. In his lap times. Yeah, they have declined lately. I think that was mostly due to tire wear. So that is the reason for his pit stop, we presume. Yeah, as he leaves the pits with a brand spanking new hood, new tires and fuel for the end of the race. There will be no doubt about that. He's fueled, he's ready, he's got new tires, he's fully ready to go for the end of the race.
And he's got a hood on his car. I would consider that a benefit.
Yeah, quite so. I think that's definitely going to make his race a lot more safe for once, because I don't know the mechanics of iRacing. You know me, I don't know this, so I don't know how much a lack of hood will affect the car's driving. So I can't have I can't have an opinion until I. Yeah. Anyway, George Lee Wright still holds a comfortable lead of 26 seconds over, and his closest rival is Klaus Peterson. Barbier Van Gabriel is currently 2 minutes behind, which is something that I did not see coming. Paul Stolber is 2.25 minutes, 2 minutes 25 seconds, and Adam Bath, who is the second to last runner, sorry, the third to last runner, because Tuan Tran is in 6th place, 2 laps down. Darren Gonzalez is 3 laps down in 7th place, and Bastien Huisman is in 8th place. So I think, which I believe this 8th place might be from that pit stop where he had to fix his damage, which ended his race-long battle with Paul Stolber.
But, despite only having, under 15 cars start this race, it was a test round. We still saw some really good racing going on for, a good half of the race. But, 2 to 3 groups were battling, groups of 2 that is. And, now it's spread out because of pit stops, people quitting, pulling over, wrecking, So now it's basically the haul to the end. If you can make it to the end, you're going to finish where you're at. Not really that close of battles going on right now.
Although I wish there were still more people racing, because the rate of attrition during this race has been disastrous, to say the least. 16, because we have 15 starters, and 20 laps later we only had about 7, which is not helpful for us. Definitely not helpful for us when it comes to calling the action, because there's not too much action to call.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. It seems like that's how it is for iRacing. When somebody gets wrecked out, a couple of people come with them. Definitely a higher attrition rate than what we see at LFS, because damage is more terminal here. Anyways, Klaus Peterson is just ducked into the pit lane. He's going to do his green flag service, and Adam Bath is going to unlap himself.
Yeah, I think most the likely thing is that George Lee Wright is going to retake the lead. He clearly has more pace than Klaus Peterson. As you can see, Klaus Peterson was doing lap times in the mark of 2 minutes 2:20.6, while Lee Wright is just doing 19 in the high 19s, low 20s. So the pit. Sean Turan is back into the pits again. I've been following Tuan Turan. I think. I'm sorry. Uh, this man has spent quite a while in the pits. I'm sorry to inform. Good thing is he's still in the race. He's still running.
Well, we've seen some pretty good action here, and I think that with more cars, it's going to be either chaotic or very good racing coming from this. Definitely glad we had a rolling start, because I imagine with a standing start, it would have been an absolute disaster. Everybody piling into Eau Rouge at full throttle. At least with this, they had, the opportunity to get up to speed, go around a corner, and spread out before piling into Eau Rouge, and this was only with 15 cars. So hopefully next round we'll have a lot more cars, and we won't have any carnage before, we get up Eau Rouge, and hopefully things will be able to spread out, and we'll have some really good racing. Remember, there's a full course caution in this league, so if car wrecks or for whatever reason, then admins need to throw a full course caution. That is a possibility. much going on the track right now. George Lee Wright is, well out ahead of Klaus Peterson by 41 seconds here, with Razvan Gabriel about a minute behind that, and then Paul Stolber a minute and a half behind that, with Adam Bath 10 seconds in his wake. So, the other 3 cars are a couple laps down. So with that being said, not much going on the track right now, but it's been a pretty decent race. We really had a good time watching Paul Stolber and Bastian Huisman, also George Lee Wright and Marcel Mose at the front. It's a shame those battles could not continue. I think if Marcel stayed, George might have had the chance to close down on that gap had there been a little bit of a mistake. So would have been interesting to see how that panned out, but not sure what happened to Marcel. But now with just under 23 minutes to go, George Lee Wright is out in front despite nosing the wall early on. So 15 minutes remaining. We're watching onboard with George Lee Wright as he sets a flyer of a lap. No major mistakes yet. Tires are a little worn out, but not as much fuel in the tank as he started the run, so he should be able to do faster times as the run goes on. Plus, he probably got a little bit of that damage pulled out while he was in pit road. Most challenging corner for this track is definitely this last complex here, the double hairpin, more of a chicane actually, bus stop I guess you can call it. But you can watch George here as he piles in. It's pretty tight, and you get a little bit of oversteer on that last corner. This one right here, this second curb, the exit of it, really slides that right rear around. George clocks in at a 220.3.
Not really. Jump. He meant to say Spa Franker champ. Not Spa Franker champ. Just saying. Where is the first round of the season? Right, now we see George Lee Wright entering the bus stop chicane. He's exiting the bus stop chicane. He's going to cross the line for the final time. He's going to win this test race.
And we lied. There's another lap because he just barely beat the clock.
Well, thank you, George Lee Wright. Thank you very much. This is the final lap. George Lee Wright is, if he doesn't make any mistakes, he's got this race under him.
And this has to be officially the longest 90-minute race ever because it'll be 92 minutes long.
Well, considering how it somehow went 2 laps over the time limit, I'm not surprised. God knows how that happens.
And it looks like Bastian Huisman's decided to pull off the track to let the leader go by as he comes through the S's, and he's going to head on to the second longest straightaway here in a minute. So the home stretch, here we go. Just the 90 or the 2 hairpins left, and then this race is over, and George Lee Wright is champion of a preseason race. So I guess that should feel good for him going into the real season, knowing he's got a good car underneath him, and he's got a very.
Got the pace, but let's be honest, when what is technically the fastest guy, who's technically shown to be the fastest guy, he pulled out of the race early on in the race. So this is no real reminder or any reference to who the fastest driver will be. However, we
some
have
burnouts.
a driver who just won the race, and he is George Lee Wright, the winner of the 1 hour and 30 minutes next race at Spa-Francorchamps.
So that will be all for us today, folks. We've got... Actually, that will not be all that's for us. There's still a battle going on in track between Paul Stober and Adam Bath.
That's for position?
Technically it is. Looks like Stober ran out of fuel or something.
He looks to be slowing down, and his engine sounds sick, so... That's what it... Yeah, he's definitely slowing.
Well, we would like to thank you for joining us today at Revolutionary Racing's test round, and hopefully we will see you soon.
Yeah, thank you for putting up